Hello, welcome to the Indian polity class. So UPSC में a very important topic is Indian polity. By basically आप उसमें ज़्यादातर proficiency लेने से it will be very useful to crack the UPSC exam. तो Indian polity, what is Indian polity? Polity is basically government. तो गवर्नमेंट है, इंडियन पॉलिटी इज नथिंग बट इंडियन गवर्नमेंट. तो इसमें द फर्स्ट टॉपिक विच वी आर गोइंग टू सी इज अबाउट द हिस्टोरिकल अंडरपिनिंग्स ऑफ द इंडियन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन. तो हिस्टोरिकल अंडरपिनिंग्स ऑफ द इंडियन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन पहला टॉपिक है. वी विल डायरेक्टली मूव इनटू द टॉपिक. तो वाई वी एक्चुअली सी हिस्टोरिकल अंडरपिनिंग्स. हिस्टोरिकल अंडरपिनिंग्स को समझने से इट विल बी वेरी यूजफुल टू अंडरस्टैंड द इंडियन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन. ओके, तो 1950 में जो इंडियन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन बना था, इट हैज़ अ लॉन्ग हिस्ट्री. तो व्हेन यू अंडरस्टैंड द रूलिंग ऑफ ईस्ट इंडिया कंपनी एंड देन ब्रिटिश गवर्नमेंट, यू कैन अंडरस्टैंड द इंडियन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन ऑल्सो in a very better way. So hence Indian polity में the first chapter which we need to see is historical underpinnings. Today in the Indian constitution you can see there are two types of governments. There is the federal structure, the central government is there, and then there are states are there. Then you have a parliamentary democracy, you have an executive which is responsible to the legislature. So all these things are there. So to understand this better, we need to know why it is so. Why the executive today is responsible, is answerable to the legislature. Why we have this type of system in India. Why we have a president. Why we have governor at the states. Okay, these things if we want to know it, we have to go back to the history. So we start the historical underpinnings from not from Mughal period or before that. We have to start it from East India Company. So East India Company was basically established in 1600. Okay, 1600 it basically was established in 1600. So it basically established in 1600 by a royal charter of Queen Elizabeth I. So East India Company was formed in 1600. Then it came to India in 1608 with a trade monopoly, which is trader's license. So this trade monopoly is very important aspect. Why? Because East India Company could do trade in India. That was the only company which was sent by the East India by the British government to do trade here. So trade monopoly उसके पास था. That was the very important aspect which made it so rich. Okay, so East India Company when it came in 1600, it was doing business for around 150 years above. Okay, it became so much rich and got political influence also. So one of the important aspects which happened during the East India Company's trading here is it actually won the battle of Buxar. Okay, before that battle of Plassey won. Then you can see that battle of Buxar, it actually defeated, okay, the Mughals, the Shah Alam. Okay, so you can see 1765 the company obtained Diwani rights. So after the winning at the battle of Buxar, rights over revenue and civil justice, which is Diwani rights, they actually got it. Okay, so Diwani rights was given to them by Shah Alam, Mughal Emperor Shah Alam, in the areas of Bengal, Bihar and Orissa, and it made them politically so strong. Okay, so East India Company now it is now no more just a business company. Okay, now it has become rich and also it has got political influence. So this is Diwani rights, collecting of taxes. It has made them politically influenced also. So what happened actually after that? So East India Company, basically the directors at the East India Company and the workers at the East India Company, they got so much rich, but the company actually felt like they have the debt actually of 1.4 million pounds. So why it happened? Okay, East India Company was doing trade for more than 150 years, and also it has got the political influence also by winning the battle of Buxar. But then you can see 1.4 million pounds okay, of debt happened to them. Why it happened? It was basically because of corruption. So East India Company, the workers there, the directors there, okay, everybody was doing their own trade, okay, and they were getting gifts from the locals, then bribes also they were getting. So the company had to feel this the debt of 1.4 million pounds. So East India Company, what it did, actually it did, the company went to the British government for help to pay to the debt. Okay, the highest power is basically to make laws. So what the British government did, the British government actually helped the East India Company, but in return they wanted to quid pro quo, give and take. They wanted to regulate the East India Company. Hence we can see that the Regulating Act was passed, okay, on 18th May 1773. The first regulating bill was passed in the British Parliament. Lord North was the Prime Minister at that time. So Regulating Acts was basically to regulate the East India Company. The affairs of the East India Company are no more, now they are autonomous, okay. Now the British government is going to regulate their internal affairs. So this is the concept of quid pro quo, okay. It is quid pro quo, which means give and take. So the British government is giving, okay, it's solving the debt of 1.4 million, and in return they are getting the regulating powers of the East India Company. Okay, so the British government had a deal with the East India Company. The East India Company also agreed to this term that they can regulate that. So regulating powers acts were passed for every 20 years. You can see regulating acts, they were there. First regulating act happened in 1773. Then afterwards 1793. 20 years you can add it. Then you have 1813, then 1833, then finally 1853. These were the regulating acts which were meant to regulate the East India Company. So what was the purpose of East Regulating Act? There were three purposes we can sideline when we come across this East India Company, the regulating acts. Number one is to weaken, it is to weaken the East India Company. Number two is to strengthen the British government. And then to hold over, have a hold over the East India Company. So the aim is to control and regulate the affairs of the East India Company. Regulating acts were passed. Okay, these are the years you can see in the slide. Then let us go to the first Regulating Act of 1773. So India had actually three zones of power: Bombay, Madras and Bengal. Okay, this was India at that time. You can see one is Bombay Presidency, it was like this, and Madras Presidency, and Bengal was such a big presidency here in the north. Okay, the whole of things, everything was Bengal in the north. Most of the areas were Bengal. Assam was also under Bengal Presidency only. So these were three zones, and Bombay was there, Kolkata was there, and Madras was there. These were the power zones. So each of the zone was administered by a governor. So 1773 Act laid the foundations of the central administration in India. What happened was, at that time, the Regulating Act of 1773 made the governor of Bombay, governor of Madras subordinate to the governor of Kolkata. Okay, so this was a first feature which the Regulating Act of 1773 made. Okay, so Governor General, now the Governor of Bengal is called as the Governor General of Bengal. Then and created an executive council of 4 members to assist him. You can see now the Governor of Bengal has become Governor General of Bengal, which means that he has become powerful. So what the British government did was, it actually made an executive council of 4 members to assist him. Remember, it is not a legislative council, it is an executive council to assist him, and that is called as Calcutta Council. Lord Warren Hastings was the first Governor General of India. Okay, governors of Bombay and Madras presidencies were made a subordinate to the Governor General of Bengal, and then Supreme Court of at Calcutta 1774. Okay, comprising of the Chief Justice Sir Elia Mp and 3 other judges was also formed. The prohibited, okay, what happened to the corruption acts which were happening that time. So Regulating Act of 1773, it prohibited private trade. So this was the main reason for corruption to be happening. Okay, then you have gifts and bribes. So all these things were prohibited by the Regulating Act of 1773. Then it strengthened the control of British government over the companies by requiring the court of directors reporting its everything, okay, to the revenue to the British government. So now you can see court of directors. Actually, court of directors, it was a company's body. Okay, court of directors is a company's body. So Regulating Act asked the court of directors to always, inform the British government about what is the revenue which is they are getting. Okay, so Regulating Act of 1773 made this first step of centralization. The whole of Regulating Acts and the historical underpinnings you can divide among like what is the theory between how it has happened, the centralization and decentralization. That is the one thing which you can see in the historical underpinnings. So historical underpinnings, you can see, this is, if you can draw a graph, so these are years, okay, then 1773, 1793, 1813, then 1833, okay, if you can take this this time of centralization, okay, centralization, the powers you can see that it is just from 1773 it started just like this, okay. Then what happened after 1853, after 1853 you can see that the trend actually reverses, okay, it started like decentralization, okay, decentralization, finally it was 1947 that decentralized happened and we got the independence. So this is actually the whole story of the historical underpinning. So we are going to see how this all happened, how the centralization happened during the East India Company time, and then when the East India Company was removed and when British government took over the East India Company finally in 1858, then from that time how decentralization happened. That is the whole story we are going to see in the East India, this historical underpinnings. Okay, so Regulating Act of 1773 is the first step of centralization in India. It is the first step of centralization. We need to mark it down like it is the first step of centralization. Then you can see that Governor of Bengal has been made Governor General of Bengal. Now he is very powerful, okay. The other 2 governors have been made subordinate to him. So this is nothing but purely starting of centralization. Okay, now we will see what are the defects of the Regulating Act of 1773. Number 1 is that it did not specify whose authority would be final in case of conflict between the council and the court. So you have seen that there is a Supreme Court which was established by the East India by the Regulating Act of 1773, okay, Supreme Court at Calcutta, but it didn't mention, Regulating Act did not mention, did not specify, okay, if there is a conflict between the council and the court, okay, which means like something, if the conflict between legislature and the court, what will we do, okay. Similarly at that time it was not specified, okay. Then if the conflict happens between the council and the court, whose authority would be final, that was not mentioned, and you know that time there was no constitution also. So that was a big problem, okay, of this defect of the Regulating Act of 1773. Then second defect we can tell, like did not specify which law had to be applied while trying the cases. So you know that in India even the Britishers were there, okay, and Indians were there. So there were two laws. One set of English law was there, and then on the other hand you have Indian laws. Okay, which law will be applied if the Indians come to the court, to the Supreme Court at Calcutta? Okay, it happened like the court applied English laws in all cases which was resented by the Indians. So it actually made Indians feel bad. Okay, they resented actually by when the Supreme Court at Calcutta was using these British laws to solve their cases. Then that was one of the important defects of Regulating Act of 1773. Then it was silent on the power of negation by the Governor General of Bengal. Okay, Governor of Bengal was made Governor General of Bengal by 1773 Regulating Act, but the power to say no. Okay, what is that? The power to say no to the acts made by the governors. So you can see that centralization happens, but it was silent. Okay, 1773 was silent on the power of negation. Okay, so for example, if the Governor of Bombay and Governor of Madras did something, then the Governor General of Bengal cannot say no to their acts because it was silent. Okay, it was not mentioning clearly what to do in this case. So two main defects you can see. One is when there is a conflict between the council and the court. Okay, who will have the authority, whose authority would be final, that was not said in this Regulating Act of 1773. And number two is that Governor General of Bengal, if he has he cannot say no, okay, the power to say no, okay, for the acts of the other governors. So this was the problem there. Then East India Company did not cooperate to regulate. This is also a defect of Regulating Act. You know that 1.4 million pounds was a big debt. Okay, British government actually helped the East India Company with this 1.4 million. But then you have to know that more than 150 years the company was here in India. So suddenly by Regulating Act it was not possible to regulate the East India Company fully. Okay, and the East India Company's authorities were not cooperating with the British government, okay, to implement this act. So that was also a defect of Regulating Act of 1773. Then the Governor General was bounded by majority decisions of his council. Okay, there was a Governor General's council where 4 people were there. Okay, a Governor General, the Chief Executive, he is bounded by major decisions of the council. Okay, so the point to be noted here is this Governor General Council is not a legislative council, but it is an executive council. Okay, the executive council which is doing a legislative work also. How it is possible? Okay, in India today we are electing a legislative body. From legislature an executive comes. Okay. So today the Prime Minister and the Council of Ministers, they are legislative members, the legislature members who are also doing the executive work. Okay, but then during East India Company, when the Governor General in Council was made to assist, it was not a legislative council which was doing executive work, but it was predominantly a executive body. Okay, that was the problem. So during East India Company we can see that the legislative body, okay, is under, okay, it was under the executive body. So executive body is dominant there. So this is the dominant one. So today's Indian constitution, we can see that the legislative body is subordinate to the executive body. Sorry, the executive body is subordinate to the legislative body. Executive is answerable to the legislative body. But that during East India Company we can see the regulating acts also. There the executive body is more predominant. Okay, it is dominant. Okay, the executive body is also doing the legislative part. Okay, so this is one of the reasons we have to know the historical underpinnings so that we can relate it with the today's constitution, how we have come far away. Okay, so why we made this change? So the governors were not subordinate to Governor General in practice. This was also a defect of the Regulating Act of 1773, that the governors were not subordinate. Okay, Regulating Act said that the Governor of Bombay and the Governor of Madras have to be, okay, they have to be subordinate to the Governor General of Bengal. But what happened in reality practically was that they were not subordinate to them. If we are asked why it was so, the governors of Bombay and Madras said that in the day-to-day activities they cannot wait for the Governor General's his views, okay, his orders, because they have to act immediately. So making these two governors, Governor of Bombay and Governor of Madras, under the Governor General of Bengal was not possible, was not practically fit, because day-to-day activities they acted on their own. Okay, so these were the defects of the Regulating Act of 1773. Okay, so the next act is, before the Regulating Act and the other acts, Amending Act of 1781 came in. Okay, what was the main work, what was the main thing about Amending Act is that to rectify the defects of the Regulating Act of 1773 was the main purpose why Amending Act was enacted. Okay, so it was also known as the Act of Settlement. What are the effects, problems we faced during due to the Regulating Act of 1773? These were, those acts were cleared. Okay, so by this Act of Settlement, which is 1781 Amending Act. What were the features of this act? It exempted the Governor General and the Council from the jurisdiction of the Supreme Court. So the problem was whose authority will be final, no? So actually this Amending Act, it exempted Governor General and the Council from the jurisdiction of the Supreme Court. It exempted even the company servants also. So Supreme Court cannot order, okay, on these company servants. It excluded the revenue matters from the jurisdiction of the Supreme Court. So here we can see there is a clear separation of power. Okay, and Supreme Court's powers have been they cannot, the Supreme Court cannot do anything with regard to the company, not even company servants, not about Governor General and Council, and not even about revenue matters of the East India Company. So it provided the Supreme Court was to have jurisdiction over all the inhabitants of the Calcutta, and the court to administer the personal law of the defendants. So Calcutta, the whole people were under the Supreme Court. Okay, the Supreme Court at Calcutta, it had the jurisdiction which can provide judgments related to all the inhabitants of the Calcutta. Okay, and then the court to administer the personal law of the defendants. So there are Hindu laws were there, the Muhammadan law for the Muslims. Okay, those laws have to be followed, which was said in the Amending Act of 1781. Then this Act, 1781 Act, it appeals for the provincial courts also. Okay, court could be taken to Governor General in Council and to not to the Supreme Court. You see, if there was a provincial court when the judgments made, if somebody wants to appeal, then it was said that the appeal can be brought to Governor General in Council, and not to the Supreme Court. Today we have that if we have High Court judgments, if you want to appeal, you go to the Supreme Court. But at that time, by Amending Act, it was made clear that if the provincial court judgment, if somebody wants to have an appeal, they have to go to the Governor General in Council, which is an executive body. Which is also doing a legislative part. They will have the power in final say. Okay, they will also act as a judiciary. So you can see there is a fusion of power happening here. Okay, so when you have to appeal the provincial court's judgment, then you need to go to Governor General in Council and not to the Supreme Court. Then the Amending Act said that it empowered the Governor General in Council to frame regulations for the provincial courts and councils. So provincial courts and councils के लिए if they want to, Governor General and Council want to frame regulations, they were permitted by this Amending Act of 1781. So this is an extra act which was made basically to remove or minimize the defects which happened because of 1773 Regulating Act. So here you can see there is a more separation between the judiciary, Supreme Court and the East India Company, and now the Supreme Court cannot do anything which related to East India Company's matters, not even related to Governor General or Governor General in Council or servants of the company or revenue matters. Okay, so this is the Amending Act of 1781. Next act in this timeline is Pitt's India Act of 1784. So this is you need to have a timeline here. Okay, we can have 1773 or 1773. You can write it in both the sides what you want to have. Okay, the notes you can take like this. Okay, so 1773 and between 1793 you have important aspect of 1784 Pitt's India Act. Why it is so important? So the Pitts the younger, okay, he was the Prime Minister. Okay, his name was, the full name was William Pitt. He introduced the double government. Okay, double government in Pitt's India Act. You can see Pitt's India, there are two T's are there, so you can remember like this. So it is a double government system. Okay, so Pitt's India Act introduced double government. What was double government? It basically distinguished between the commercial and political functions of the company. Okay, you know that there was a court of directors. Court of directors was there. Okay, now you have board of control. Board of control. Okay, these two bodies were made. So already court of directors was there, now board of control is there, which was made by the British government. So B for board for control, and this is by British government. Okay, British government. Court of directors is by the East India Company. So the functions basically were divided among these two bodies. Okay, commercial and political functions. Court of directors and the board of control will look into the commercial activities and political affairs respectively. Okay, the court of directors, the company now will be seeing only commercial activity. And what about the board of control? They will be seeing political activities and also military ones also will be taken care of by the board of control, which was appointed by the British government. Okay, now you can see that Pitt's India Act has drastically reduced the powers of the East India Company. So the East India Company has been reduced to just a company which is doing a commercial activity. Okay, then you can see that the company's territories in India by the Pitt's India Act of 1784 was called British Possession in India. Though the first time it was said like the company's territories in India are considered as British possession in India. So you can see that slowly the powers of the British government is increasing and the powers strength of the East India Company is decreasing. So Pitt's India Act played a vital role in this. The British government was given the supreme control over companies' affairs and administration in India. That is also true that it had now the supreme control over companies' affairs here. Governors' Council were also established in Madras and Bombay. This was also an impact of the feature of the Pitt's India Act, that you had a Governors' Council at the Calcutta for the Governor General of Bengal. Now at Madras and Bombay provinces also you can see that Governors' Councils were made by the Pitt's India Act. Then it reduced the Governor General's numbers also. So it also reduced the Governor General's numbers from 4 to 3. So it is a very drastic move. Earlier, Governor General Council had 4 people. So majority, it was very difficult for the Governor General of Bengal to decide. Okay, but now by Pitt's India Act, the Governor General Council's strength was reduced from 4 to 2. Okay, so let us see Regulating Act of 1793. What is happening here? The next act which comes here is Regulating Act of 1793. So you can see that East India Company's the Regulating Act, how it has the centralization impact it has. Okay. So we can have a timeline from 1600. Okay, then you have Battle of Buxar, then you have 1773, this is 1763, 1793, between you can have the Pitt's India Act, okay, 1784, then 1813, another regulating act, 1833, it was another regulating act, then 1853, this was the last regulating act, then you can have 1858, which was Queen Victoria's proclamation. So all this act, we need to know what are the specialities about these acts, each and every act, so that we can understand how the centralization took place during East India Company. Okay, then from 1858, you can have the other acts like Indian Councils Act 1861, 1892, Indian Councils Act 1909, Indian Councils Act, all these things acts were related to decentralization of power in India. Okay. So let us go to the next Regulating Act, Regulating Act of 1793. So here you can see the trade monopoly was again extended to 20 years. So the regulating acts, one of the common feature we can see among the starting regulating acts is that it is totally 20 years extension of trade monopoly will be there, okay, every year. So it means that for the next 20 years the East India Company will be having the trade license to do trade in India. Okay, it was a very important aspect of regulating acts. Then what did it do? It extended the overriding power given to the Lord Cornwallis over his council to all future Governor Generals and Governors of Presidencies. So Regulating Act of 1793 has extended this overriding power, okay, which was given to the Governor General of the time over his council, okay, to all future Governor Generals, which means that it has made the executive more powerful. Here Regulating Act of 1793, it wanted to actually solve the problem, the defect of 1773, where even though after the the Governor of Bengal was made Governor General of Bengal and other governors were made subordinate to him, that was not practical because of his absence. Okay, so here 1793 Regulating Act, you can see it is said that the physical presence of Governor General in Madras and Bombay would supersede Governor's authority. What does it mean? So suppose if the Governor General of Bengal, okay, he comes and visits Madras and stays there for 1 month or 2 months, at that time the Governor General of Bengal's authority will be there, okay, so he will supersede over the Governor of Madras. It was a very big deal. Okay, so and even when he goes to Bombay, he will do the same. So if the Governor General of Bengal moves there and stays there for some weeks in Bombay, then the Bombay Presidency, the Governor of Governor General of Bengal's powers will be superseding the Governor of Bombay. So this was a very important aspect, and now you can see that in this the coordination between the Bombay, Madras and the Calcutta, it was happening, okay, and now subordination which was made in 1773 is becoming practical now. Then the Board of Control, members were to be paid out of Indian revenues. This is very interesting. This is also an aspect of how the powers of the East India Company were reduced. What is this board of control? As I said, board of control is nothing but a British company, okay, actually the British body, okay, with the body which was made by the appointed by the British government. Okay, so it was said in the Regulating Act of 1793 that these people who are there in the board of control, who were appointed by the British government, okay, they have to be paid from the Indian revenues, okay, of the East India Company. Okay. Then the East India Company was also granted the authority to grant license to individuals and company employees to carry on trade in India, which was a privileged trade or country trade. So you remember that the 1773 Regulating Act, it stopped, okay, the private trade, but now in 1793 Regulating Act, the privileged trade and country trade was again restarted. Okay, so now trade monopoly is there. On one hand, the East India Company is having trade monopoly. On other hand, the Regulating Act of 1793 is actually granting authority to the company itself to grant license to do private trade. So this led to shipments of opium to China. Okay, now the business with China also started with this. Okay, then Regulating Act of 1813. So what happened during this Regulating Act of 1813? After 20 years, another Regulating Act came. It abolished the trade monopoly of the company in India. So you can see that, as I said, the Regulating Acts were meant to weaken, okay, the East India Company and to do centralization. So that is happening here, that the trade monopoly of the company in India is abolished. It was thrown open to all British merchants. Okay, here we need to know that Napoleon's Continental System was one of the important reasons why it all happened. Okay, what did Napoleon do? Napoleon actually, the emperor, the French emperor, what he did? He closed all the ports of Europe to British trade. So the British government had to face a big loss. So what did they do? Actually, they opened the trade. Okay, they cannot just run the show with the trade monopoly given to the East India Company. Now they wanted each and every British person who is subjects, who is there in India, to do trade. Okay, so Napoleon's Continental System, which was actually to close all the ports of Europe for the British trade. So it affected the income of the British government. So however, you can see that it continued the monopoly of the company over trade in tea and trade with China. But then East India Company's monopoly was still efficient and still intact, okay, over the trade in tea. Okay, tea trade and trade with China was a main aspect actually of the East India Company. It was doing much more, okay, work on the tea trade. It happened like that. So it asserted the sovereignty of the British Crown over the company's territories in India. This was also a Regulating Act of 1813 which happened. It said that sovereignty of the British Crown is there. Okay, it allowed the Christian missionaries to come in India for the purpose of enlightening the people. This is also a Regulating Acts aspect. Then it provided for the spread of Western education among the inhabitants of the British territories. It authorized the local governments in India to impose taxes on persons, and they could also punish the persons for not paying taxes. These were some of the important aspects of Regulating Act of 1813. Regulating Act of 1813, it was also considered as St. Helena Act, okay, which was there in UPSC. A question was there related to this, okay, 1813. Why it was called as St. Helena Act? So St. Helena Act basically, it happened like Regulating Act of 1833. Let us go to this act. The Governor General of Bengal was made Governor General of India and vested in him all civil and military powers. So this was called as the final step of centralization. Final step of centralization in India. Okay, the first step of centralization was Regulating Act of 1773 and the final step of centralization was Regulating Act of 1833. Okay, what happened here is the government of India having authority over the entire territory and possessed by British in India. Lord William Bentinck was the first Governor General. Now you can see by Act of 1833 the Governor General of Bengal is now considered as Governor General of India. So total centralization happened here. So Governor of Bombay, Madras, actually they lost their legislative powers. Centralization means what? Centralization means you are taking the powers from the ground and taking all the powers to the center. Okay, that is nothing but centralization. So the Governor General of India was given exclusive powers related to the legislation, okay, for the entire British India. Now the Bombay and Madras governors, they didn't have this legislative power. Yes, laws were made under this act are called as acts, okay, and no more they are now they are not considered as regulations. So East India Company became purely an administrative body and activities as a commercial body ended. Okay, now you can see that East India Company by Act of 1833 it has become a purely administrative body. Company's territories were held by East India Company in the trust of His Majesty. It attempted to introduce an open competition for selection of civil service including Indians. So Regulating Act of 1833 it wanted actually by the British that even in the East India Company Indians should take part, but the East India Company was adamant, it negated this provision, they didn't accept this provision. Indian Law Commission was also set up through Governor General in Council. First Law Commission, Lord Macaulay was its member and chairman. It was also came about by the Regulating Act of 1833, and there was an end of monopoly even with China happened because of the Regulating Act of 1833. So total centralization, now it happened, like it is the final step of centralization. The next regulating acts are Regulating Act of 1853, where you can see how more the East India Company's powers were more reduced. Okay, finally the British government takes over the East India Company by 1858, Queen Victoria's proclamation. Thank you very much.